Cooking with space. So today I'm making a sort of knockoff poutine. I'm going to be doing crispy diced potatoes instead of french fries, and I'm going with shredded cheese instead of cheese curds. So to start, I'm peeling some russet potatoes. I use russets for pretty much everything potato related. When I have them peeled, I toss them in some cold water. This is going to help retain their color as well as wash off some of that starch. You can let whole potatoes soak overnight, but don't do that with sliced or diced potatoes, or they can get waterlogged. To dice the potatoes, you first want to cut them in half or on one side to get a flat surface so the potatoes don't slip. Then I go ahead and chop 3 cuts, rotate 90 degrees, and make 3 perpendicular cuts. I lay them flat and chop them into decent sized cubes from there. It's not the best method, but it's what I did. Try to get each cube to be roughly the same size to ensure even cooking, but don't worry because you'll definitely end up with some smaller little bits. Swirl your potato cubes in their starch bath to assert dominance, then it's on to the beef. I'm getting a non-stick pan or stick pan on a medium-high burner and then prepping my beef chuck steak. I awkwardly threaten the beef, which I got on Manager's Special, which you can see from the expertly hidden brown spots. Roll up them sleeves and get to work with some olive oil or really any high smoke point oil. It's not going to affect the flavor much here. And then apply a generous layer of salt and a generous layer of freshly ground black pepper. Make sure to get both sides now. Drop it into the pan with maybe some of that oil on the plate, but it's really not necessary because we want some sticking to occur here. Listen to that sizzle. Reward yourself. After 2 to 3 minutes of cooking on one side, examine and yes, I see wellness creeping up. Give it a flip and look at all that brown crust in the pan. That's called fond and it's going to add some intense beef flavor to the gravy later. That's why we shun non-stick pans here. Another 2 to 3 with some tongue dancing to pass the time, and then I'll give the side some searing as well. It's got a nice crust on both sides, so I set the beef aside, and then I get started on the gravy. Heat down to low, a nice plop of butter, one for the floor, and maybe a little bit more butter. I'm tossing that right onto the fond and then grabbing a spoon, I guess, to deglaze the pan. Once we're good and deglazed, I'm adding some flour to get a roux started. Whisk together until it's thickened up, and then cook it until it's fragrantly nutty to remove the raw edge. Going to use some form of cream here, in this case 2% milk, strictly for thickening, not flavor. Whisk it up and it looks lumpy now, but don't worry, it'll smooth out with the inclusion of beef broth. Just about a carton's worth, and make sure it's unsalted. This is going to reduce down really far, so the less salt now the better. There, see? So smooth. I earned this. So back to the beef. Grab it with tongs to avoid slippery hand on beef action. giving it 4 cuts lengthwise with a sharper knife than I have, and then chopping it widthwise into small beefy squares. And this is beef chuck and not sirloin. It's going to be super tough unless it's cooked for a long time, so chopping it up all small like helps speed that up. Back to the broth, give it a whisk, almost lose everything to a lack of familiarity with fluid dynamics, and then add in the beef. Whoops, not that piece. I'm also going to scrape in the drippings on the cutting board and then on the plate as well. It's good stuff, so don't let it go to waste. Whisk the beef in and get the heat back up to medium-low to get a good simmer going. Scrape off the side fond on the walls of the pan when you can, otherwise let it reduce for 45 minutes to an hour. 30 minutes in, I'm going to try a small bit of beef. Good, but still a little tough. I added some salt and pepper here off camera, but not too much. This is still going to get more concentrated. Anyway, at this point the gravy is almost ready, so I'm going to start on my potatoes, roll up them sleeves, and then dump out the... wait, what the... a fruit fly. Son of a gun. Another rinse for more starch removal. And I'm getting some oil in this hot pan to hot it up a chunk. Roll up them sleeves and give the gravy a good whisking. You can see when I whisk here that there are trails left behind and the bottom of the pan is visible. This is around the thickness I want, so I turn the heat off and taste for seasoning. More pepe, sale, and another beef whisking. The oil is hot, so I'm gonna spread it. On. I'm gonna swirl. This one spot is such a. There we go. Oh, now the bottom. Alright, whatever. Add the potatoes and then salt them up. Not only is that seasoning, but it's also going to draw out moisture. Flip the potatoes to coat them in oil, or let your confidence build here instead. Water's out, and hear that bubbling. Oh hey, those were some good ones. Keep it up. Just gonna stick my hand in the hot pan here. If you're a child, I recommend you do this too. Depending on your heat, it's gonna take 10 to 15 minutes to get those nice and crispy. Hey, that was pretty smart. No need to check, you definitely burned yourself, buddy. Potatoes are a great food to practice your pan tossing with. They're cheap and have a nice aerodynamic quality. I failed to learn my lesson and I stick my hand back in the pan. A lot. Jesus, that's a lot. What are you doing? And finally, they're crispy enough to serve. This is like what the bare minimum would look like. I was hungry and impatient. These should go on until they're a deeper golden brown. Scooped out most of the gravy into a container. The last of it goes onto the potatoes, and I know what you're thinking, but it tastes way better than it looks, I promise. Mix it a bit and bask in futility, then it's time to add the cheese element. In lieu of cheese curds, I'm just grating some Kerrygold Reserve cheddar over the top. Too much is not enough here. Attempt some amateur food styling, and there you have it. A little bit of knockoff poutine. Now, it does look a little grim, but it tastes quite good, and here's how I can tell. That noise right there is high praise. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.